within this physical and or spiritual awareness, the self will shine through in luminosity, and from the soul, the infinite wisdom of its divine reflection within atonement. There is no individuation, because the moment individuation is present to exist, that it presents itself, fractals, geometric figure, each part of which has the same statistical character as the whole, it will appear. Welcome. I'm so glad that you can join me here today. 354 on What Is It Like with No Illusion, pages 822 to 24, 3 pages. So this is number 15, the pointer number 15. So what is it like with no illusion? This is an audio-visual version of my book, TheSovereignLight, named after my ministry. And my name is Reverend Maria Arvanitides. How do you do? Whenever you're ready, let's take a few deep breaths in and out. And normally the fire's in the belly, yes, but we also have it in the heart space center, where we anchor and open our pituitary and pineal glands. You know, that hidden eye that's right about where we pierce our ears, you know, the baby's head, and to our heart space center. So when we're breathing in, and from the soles of our feet, that fire in our belly, yes, all the way up from solar plexus, primal, and sentient, and ripple out into your holographic field that you reflect. Whatever it is from your inner vision is reflected out through your heart space center. And whenever you're ready, let's say these words out loud. By now, you've come to the realization of breathing and deep breathing. And I've been your breath coach, for lack of better words, that people use for money. And so it doesn't take a PhD to learn how to do these things and train little by little each day, just like any other kind of exercise. This is what we do. And slowly but surely we end up securely and stabilized within the 4th, 5th, and multidimensional. And that can only be possible through the heart space center. Okay, so let's take a deep breath in and just breathe that in for a moment, that information. And out. When all the egoic programs are released, I can move into more of my divine self. And take another deep breath in and out. When all the egoic programs are released, I can move into more of my divine self. And let me hear you say these words out loud. When all the egoic programs are released, I can move into more of my divine self. When all the egoic programs are released, I can move into more of my divine self. When the self has yet to be cleared from its many carbon figurines, the shadows will cast the spells upon the splitting fragments from the soul to deflect back. These are the Bardo stages, as in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, you might want to refer to. The choice to serve and worship this diffraction must be sought out, and for the integrating lessons they will offer. The diffraction comes from the aperture of little me perspective and that of ego self-identity. A constricted perspective allows for the narrow-minded to perceive and go over the many details it can grasp from that perspective. Now it can be seen much clearly from hence before of having the preposterous idea to fit in this narrow field. And truly, how dense is that? Trust in the universal flow and in the self to build it through discernment of what resonates with it and what does not. This is what it means to clear away and integrate from here on now then, to clear the illuminating field of the self, crystalline and anointed by its own oils of activation to enlightenment and self-atonement. This is the rapture and the experience of the self coming home again to itself. When all the egoic programs are released, I can move into more of my divine self. When all the egoic programs are released, I can move into more of my divine self. When all the egoic programs are released, I can move more into my divine self. All that resonates is the truth. And while it might be the truth right now, is due to change, and through the self-expansion from the changing of perspective while exploring its options. Never truly be locked into any given belief unless that is what is preferred to explore and is preferred to be explored and further recognized. Step out of the universal concept of a disc for just a while to find that through memory which holds it in and by its electromagnetic attachment to its physical, the nervous system of its parasympathetic needs become the master and then reintegrate back in with such connection. So during these changes, the body needs lots of rest because the kidneys can give out. That also can help to aid with nerve signals and muscle function. Once the old structures clear out, the bones too can become depleted, needing phosphate, and they too become less dense, as it leaves the more denser realities of its external world. The soul too holds memory and that of past lives. As you can see in here, we have the king's coordinate, where he goes and he used to go and sleep. You can tell by the arch, whereas the commoners had the flat. And I'm here in Tapachkal. The soul too holds memory and that of past lives that attract from a magnetic component to create a reflection from an unresolved illusion held in place, waiting for integration and or discernment to take place. The self must deal with its illusions and move through, or simultaneously allow for them to move through it, to be released and transmuted. With every transmutation, the sovereign light, it will illuminate the plasmic field. Illusions are those painful experiences trapped inside the self and with emotions that the thoughts can help to release when it can translate them with the sovereign light of its awareness. When all the egoic programs are released, I can move more into my divine self. When all the egoic programs are released, I can move into more of my divine self. When all of the egoic programs are released, I can move into more of my divine self. When all the egoic programs are released, I can move into more of my divine self. And so it is. The same illusions can exist and unresolved as from within thyself. As we go into this last page, 824. So whenever you're ready, we're going to enter upstairs to where the temple and the ceremonies to the gods. And let's go and continue this. So nice to be here. And whew, I made it all the way to the top. So just to get a rough idea here of these Mayan ruins. Up here they would perform the ceremonies, I suppose, and down there to the sun god. And the higher up you go, right? The same illusion can exist and has unresolved as from within the self. These creations were not made from a place where the self could understand itself. From these unaware illusions, the experiences manifested to teach the self and trap it into thinking only as its image would, rather than that of its connection to the clarity of its imagination. The purpose is to build upon the internal connection with the self enough to trust the old way of control and authority over that of the self and others was the biggest illusion into separation. A synthetic, painful reenactment to be a hive mind and working from the unconscious level of external existence so that a few may thrive. It was so very, very exquisite to be up here where the people performed ceremonies to the gods. Shell, Chepe, the water god, and so on, 13 steps up. And so, whereas before within the field the self was only responsible for its vibrational essence, and the universe would bring it its reflection, can the light body now of the self become the universal plasma field to playfully and create at will any reflection that it chooses to experience? This is the heartfelt intent, so pay attention. When all of the egoic programs are released, I can move more into my divine self. When all of the egoic programs are released, I can move into more of my divine self. When all of the egoic programs are released, I can move more into my divine self. When all of the egoic programs are released, I can move more into my divine self.